Welcome to this session of the PlantPure Summit 2016, co-sponsored by PlantPureFoods.com. Our guest is Julieanna Hever. Julieanna is a registered dietitian who's been in private practice in Los Angeles since 2005, specializing in weight management, disease prevention and management, and sports nutrition. Julieanna served as a special consultant for the best-selling documentary Forks Over Knives and is author of the best-selling book, The Complete Idiot's Guide for Plant-Based Nutrition. She's the host of the wellness talk show series, What Would Julieanna Do on Z Living Network, and is the nutrition columnist for VegNews Magazine. Welcome to the summit, Julieanna.
Thank you so much, Lee. Thank you for having me.
Well, it's great having you here. So first off, when and why did your plant-based journey begin?
Oh, where did it begin? Many years ago, actually. It was a long journey for me. What happened was when I was about a teenager, I was really interested in nutrition and health and the world we live in. And I stumbled across John Robbins' book, Diet for a New America. And that was one of those experiences that you look back and it was like, it just stopped your world. It was like, what? Stop the presses. How did I not know this really important information? And it was really shocking and upsetting just how food ended up on your plate. And so I decided right then and there, okay, that's it. I don't want to eat animals anymore. But I didn't know what that meant. Like, what does that look like? I didn't know anybody that didn't eat animals. My parents were, had no idea what I was talking about and thought I was going through another one of my phases. And so I tried, I ate rice cakes and, fruit roll-ups, and I'm dating myself there. But, I just ate anything that didn't have come from animals. And of course, my parents, being good parents, they were concerned, well, where's she going to get all of her nutrients from? So they enlisted their friend, Kendra, a nurse, and they took me out to a steakhouse. And they gave me the riot act, you're not going to have iron, you're going to be deficient, you're going to have protein deficiency. And, she told me what she knew at the time. And I got scared. And they ordered me a teriyaki steak with a pineapple ring on top. And they said, you have to eat that. We don't want you to be sick. So I remember that first bite. And I write about this in my book, Vegetarian Diet, because it was so hard after you know and you can't unknow what it's like, I remember chewing that first piece, but eventually I got indoctrinated back into the regular world and went back to I was a personal trainer for a while, for many years while I was in graduate school for nutrition. And I still kept reading, and I knew from my heart of hearts, there has to be something to this. It makes so much sense. And finally, when I finished graduate school and had the ability to look at primary research articles on my own, and I noticed that during a lot of my classes, it would say, recommend 3 servings of dairy to your clients. And in the bottom, it would say in the corner, sponsored by the Dairy Council. So I saw all this. Yeah, you see, it's peppered everywhere throughout my education. And it was after that I realized, wait a second, I don't need meat to get iron. I don't need, animal products for protein. And I was able to start reading, and that's, I read the China study and all of these books that were coming out. It was all of a sudden the internet was out and there was social media, not social media yet, but the internet and a lot of books and a lot of research papers and Dr. Dean Ornish. And after I read all of that work, I was convinced. And it was the best thing I ever did for myself and for my career and everything.
So you are a registered dietitian. At the time you were trained, was plant-based nutrition stressed or was it not stressed?
There were really no one said plant-based nutrition. We had those odd vegetarians in the corner. So like in one chapter, in my books, in the nutrition classes, it was like, for the vegetarians, make sure they blah, blah, blah. But it wasn't really it wasn't really plant-based. Dr. Campbell really coined that term, not right around that time, but it wasn't really out there yet. So I was taught a traditional, way of teaching, and I was taught, that if you have a cardiac patient, you feed them this way, and if you have, they can have no coffee with their steak, no caffeine or sugar, ridiculous. And if you have a renal patient, you do this. It was like if everything was very divided and put into categories based on condition. And so no, absolutely not. But if you look back, and what I've been doing ever since is looking back, and everything supports it. Not only the research specifically on plant-based diets, but where you can get plant sources of iron are actually healthier because they're non-heme iron, which is actually better for the body. So the information was always there. It was just the interpretation was never stated as such.
Okay, so you could have become a registered dietitian and really know nothing about the subject of plant-based nutrition at that time, essentially.
Unless you consider the term vegetarian, and
Yeah.
it was a sub specialty. It wasn't something we focused on. But you have to remember, and a lot of people come to me and they say, I want to be a plant-based dietitian. What do I do? How do I get through, regular training, regular world? But the thing is that there's so much more. It's not just how to counsel. There's biochemistry and microbiology and food science and stuff that doesn't change. It's like a really strong foundation that you get in science and in statistics and all that stuff. And that all comes together in a couple classes is where plant-based nutrition or vegetarian nutrition would pop up.
So tell us about the process of establishing your private practice.
Well, everything evolved, and I just didn't know what I was going to do with I thought I was going to go work in a hospital because my favorite subject was medical nutrition therapy. I loved being in the hospital. I loved working with patients one-on-one, but then, wow, did that change? Because I realized that when I finally got a job in a hospital and I would go into a patient's room, they thought of the dietitian as the lunch lady. So he'd be like, this guy who just had a triple bypass, can you just tell them that my sandwich was rare, my roast beef was rare, and complaining about the food? And I'm like, oh, this is not what I want to do with my life. So I didn't do that very long. But all the time, I had been a personal trainer while I was in grad school, right during college, I was a personal trainer. And I started my own business there. And I did an in-home training. I would go to people's houses all day long and make them exercise. It was really fun. And so I basically it evolved out of that. I would take clients and then I did all sorts of things, so I don't really only see clients. I've done programs and I write books and I speak, and there's just so many different parts to my practice that it just evolved over time with what was needed and how I could help my clients and audiences.
So give us a cross-section of the typical patient that you would see in the early days of your practice, let's say.
In the early days, because I wasn't sure quite, how I was going to do this. So I did the plant-based transition, if you will, and noticed a tremendous change in my own health, complete transformation in my own health. So when I started doing this with my clients, I noticed a huge difference in all of their outcomes, complete difference. Instead of, maybe losing a couple pounds, but starving, and it was all that, or, maybe not going up in their medication doses, it was people getting off medication doses. It was people losing weight easily without being hungry. And that just continued to just get, more and more exciting. So then I was seeking out more patients that really needed that kind of service. And so now I see all sorts of people. I've kind of honed in on, I will only work with people, because I'm so limited in my time for seeing clients, I will only work with people that are open-minded to eating more plants, and not because I used to see people that would say, I don't want to go vegan, will you still work with me? And I was like, oh yeah, I'll work with you. But I want people to, because I realized after many years, 22 years of this, that you can lead a human to healthy, but you can't make them eat. So someone has to want to make a change. So I see all sorts of people now. I see people with heart disease, with cancer, with diabetes, with wanting to lose weight, people that want to go plant-based. I do a lot of people that, their kids said they want to go plant-based and the mom's concerned, so I see the whole family or the mom or the dad. I see all sorts of different populations, and I work a lot with athletes because of my personal training background. I love the athletic world. So,
well, tell me, can you name drop any athletes? Anybody that you know?
I'm no fun because I never name drop. I can't. It's like a confidentiality.
No, I got it. No problem. That's cool though. So tell us about your experience working as a consultant on Forks Over Knives.
Oh yeah. So it was exciting because as I was transforming and doing all this in my own practice, I met Brian, and they were making the movie. And I met you. That's when I met you. And I was going to screenings and stuff like that. And it was really exciting to be part of the process and watching it complete, turn into this not only great film, but really it's changed so many lives. It's been so transformative and has gotten the message across in such an incredibly powerful way. Unlike, anything I've seen before. I think it was a huge, huge motivation for so many. I mean, people come to me, I saw Forks Over Knives, now what do I do? I've kind of taken those people on. But also I think, what I did was I would go to a lot of screenings around the country and do Q&A after, because when people see that film, a lot of times it provokes more questions, because it's like when I read John Robbins' Diet for New America, and I thought, oh my gosh, what have I not known? And then you just have all these questions. And so it was really neat to engage with audiences about that. And then we did a lot of different collaborative projects together. And I think it's a very exciting film. And I'm really happy that it came and was so successful, is so successful.
I hear that the director of that movie is a real jerk.
No, false.
How did you manage to work with that guy? I hear he's a real, egomaniac.
Oh no, love him. Love the guy.
Okay. Well, we'll leave it at that. It's whoever that person might be.
I don't know. Do you have a mirror nearby?
Okay. When and why did you decide to write your first book, and what was that process like?
Oh, this was such a cool story. So I've always wanted to write a book, and my mom, she's such a great mom. She's actually here in the house. Mom, this is a shout out to you. She came over. She always told me I was going to write a book, and I didn't know what it was going to be about, but I always wanted to write about health, and that's why I read every book on nutrition and health since I can remember reading. And I didn't know. So I was working on my work and minding my own, world. And I got an email from an agent saying, hey, we're looking for an author for The Complete Idiot's Guide to Vegan Nutrition. I was like, okay. So if I was interested, I would, submit a table of contents. Like it was kind of like an audition process, if you will. So I did. I was like, oh my gosh, that's my dream come true. That's exactly what I want to do. And a few go back and forth, and I got the gig. I got the job. But here's the kicker. I know. I had 6 weeks to write an entire book with recipes.
Oh my God, 6 weeks.
I had 2 babies at the time. I had little babies at the time. So that was, needless to say, one of the hardest things I've ever done, but it was incredible. And while I was writing it, that's when Dr. Esselstyn was on, was it 60 Minutes, about that huge, with Dr. Gupta, Sanjay Gupta, where he was talking about heart attack. And they were talking about plant-based. And I think that's when the term plant-based took off. So I went to my publishers. I'd already written the first 3 chapters. And I said, look, we have to change the title from vegan nutrition to plant-based nutrition. And here's why. And I posted a whole reason, because I really knew that I wasn't talking about the ethics. This was purely nutrition, purely science, purely health. And they were so convinced that they changed the title midway, which apparently never happened. So I was really excited about that. And I think that's why the book ended up having, it was like the top bestseller of the Idiot's Guides of all of Alpha Penguin for, I think, like months and months. So I think it was part of the name, and the timing was really kind of perfect.
That's cool. Really cool. How did that make you feel when the book was so successful so quickly?
I was thrilled. I mean, I think it was just, the timing was, everyone is so thirsty for this information. And I started with this from the ethical reasons. Like I started this from the animals, and that was the part that killed me, that I read with John Robbins' book. And, and that's, so the fact that it's evolving so much is, I just want it to be huge. And the huger it gets, no matter where it's going, and it's like, there are plant-based books everywhere now. There are plant-based films. There are plant-based, it's exploding. And that just, I feel so good about that. I feel like this is very exciting to watch a social movement take momentum the way it is.
What I think is really cool about it is that by eating plant-based, you are addressing 3 problems right away. You're addressing a health issue, you're addressing a very important environmental issue, and a very important humanitarian issue. So, and all of that's right in front of us on our plates. All we got to do is change the way we eat, and you're going to be helping all those issues, automatically. And I think that that's really cool.
Win, win, win. It's phenomenal.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, is what always resonated with me. It's like, if it's good for that and it's good for this, how could it not be good? It's like this triad of goodness. Like it has to, everything is connected, right? So it all makes, it's a beautiful, harmonious, symbiotic relationship.
Yeah, I call it the strategic triad of the plant-based movement, is those 3 arguments. It's like you got to have 3 things to balance a stool, you know what I mean? So it's like the 3 things that prop up the platform that we're all on.
Oh, I love that. That's very true.
So how did you develop the recipes for your first book?
Oh, okay. Well, I'm not a chef. I always say that I'm not a chef, but I've become I had to become a chef, sort of, in a way. So I was in the kitchen, I was learning how to cook. I did this for myself and my family. I had little kids, trying to feed everyone. And I just started collecting recipes. This was before the book. Like I just started writing things down that everyone liked, and I would note them. And I just took a lot of notes. And then when the book came out, I was like, okay, good. Now I've got to, go through my notes, and then you have to get creative. And that was the hardest part for me. The hardest part for me always is the recipes. My last book, Vegetarian Diet, I did 70 recipes. And that was insane. That was so challenging. But I learned, and I'm always learning. I'm working with Ruby's plant-based professional course, and I kind of collaborate with them a lot. I've learned a lot from them. And I just think it's, you learn by cookbooks, and you just learn how to put foods together. And I've never loved food more than I love food now, because there's so many more options. And I used to eat 18 egg whites a day and chicken breasts and veggies, like the trainer's diet. And ew, how boring is that? So now it's like, Ethiopian food and Indian food, and it's delicious.
So how many recipes were in the first book?
Ooh, good question. If I have to guess, I would say 50, but I don't know if there's 50. I have to look. I don't remember.
Oh, that's all right. We forgive you.
Right after I finished that book, then they asked me to write Complete Idiot's Guide to Gluten-Free Vegan Cooking, which was 250 recipes. And I was like, oh no. Fortunately, I got to collaborate with a wonderful chef, Beverly Lynn Bennett, and we co-authored that together. So that was very helpful.
Well, I got to tell you, it's great for me to see you being so busy and successful. I feel like, I knew you when,
Aww, likewise.
Yeah. Yeah. So tell me about your show on the Z Living Network.
Oh, that was another dream come true. Well, here's the funny story. So I was literally making dinner for a bunch of people. Again, this was like the timing is everything thing. And my cell phone rang, and it was a number from New York, and I didn't recognize the number. And I never pick up my phone, because if I don't recognize the number, because I've done that before, and people say, where do you get your protein? So I stopped answering my phone, and they'll say no. But it turned out to be a producer from the Dr. Oz show. And they wanted to have me on to talk about plant-based nutrition. So I was like, oh my gosh, that was so exciting. And to feature my book. And so that worked out. And so then I was going back for a second time in New York. And at that point, after the first time, I had a manager, and the manager set me up on a meeting when I was there to do the Dr. Oz a second time. And I had this meeting it was Varia Living at the time. It's now called Z Living. And they literally gave me a show. It was an amazing meeting. They wanted to do a wellness talk show, and it was a dream come true. And so it actually worked out. And I got to live in New York City for 6 weeks and have literally the best. My undergraduate degree is in acting. So I always wanted to be an actress when I was young, because I live in LA, and who doesn't in Los Angeles, you know how it is. And it was like everything came together in this beautiful way, because I was able to have a talk show and talk about whatever. I didn't know how I was really going to be able to talk about what I wanted, but they were so wonderful. My producers, everyone was so wonderful. And when they asked me what I wanted in my contract, I said, the only thing I asked is that there are no animal products for like the cooking segments. I don't want to bring in a chef and then we're making veal, because I won't do it. And they were totally fine with that. But not only that, the producers were like, here, what do you want to do? And I had, this amazing food prep man who's amazingly talented. And so it was cooking and it was nutrition. And I had my favorite episode, my fantasy episode, I call it the Vegan 101, I call it. And I had Dr. Campbell, Dr. Neil Barnard, and Dr. Melanie Joy all there on a panel for the whole show. So we just talked about all these really important issues, and it's really exciting to get that on TV. And it was just incredible. So we did beauty and fashion, and it was dream come true. It was so we did 39 episodes, and I think they're still airing.
That's really cool. So you did them all from a studio in New York. You lived there for a while to do that. How long did it take you to do the 39 episodes?
Amazingly, I lived there for 6 weeks, and we filmed them all within 4 or 5 weeks, 2 a day.
Oh my God. That's a pretty heavy workload.
It was incredible. It was honestly one of the most incredible, joyful experiences of my entire life. The crew, everyone I was working with was really supportive. None of them were plant-based going in, but all of them were more, or if not completely plant-based by the time I left. And it was extraordinary.
Yeah, isn't that interesting? That's the same thing on Forks Over Knives. I remember going into that, and I was not going to go plant-based. As a matter of fact, I made that a condition of my employment. It's like, okay, I'll do this movie, but don't expect me to start eating this stuff. you know, but, and then I got that really bad health report and decided to try it for a while. And they put me in the movie after some arm twisting. I got to say, I didn't want to be in the movie at first. But good old John Corey, our producer, did a little arm twisting and finally convinced me that it was better. It was a good thing for me to be in the movie. So
well, good for John Corey, because it was a really nice element to see that, because it's the people like you, it's the stories like you that resonate with so many other people. That's what's so great about Forks Over Knives, are all the stories in there that show how, I mean, like how enormous the results are and how quickly.
Yeah, you're right. And well, what really got me too was the interviews with Dr. Esselstyn, surviving patients from his first study. I mean, these are people that were given up for dead 25 years ago, and they're still alive and kicking now, and never been better, it seems. You know, it's just an amazing thing to see those people.
Mind blowing. We don't think that's possible. We're not taught that in nutrition school. They're not taught that in medical school. We don't expect that to happen. It's against all odds. And it happens every day. We see it every day. I see this stuff all the time, and it's incredible.
So tell me about seeing it. What are some of your most amazing patient stories?
Oh gosh, I don't know where to begin. It's really interesting that within 4 or 5 days, you could see someone that's had a lifetime of high blood sugar or high blood pressure. I mean, years and years and years. Or what's it called? Eczema, you know, the really painful rashes. Within 4 or 5 days, that stuff can normalize. And I see that on a consistent basis. I've had people come to me, you know, a lot of people come to me with sugar addiction along with just eating standard, typical American Western diet. And just removing that stuff, to think that they could never eat that way. And then when they do, the examples are just, it's mind blowing. Like I said, so I've seen people lose, you know, half their bodies in weight, and go from really high dangerous cholesterol to normalized cholesterol within several weeks. It happens very quickly, and it happens very effectively.
Well, what gets me is that, you know, when I see advertisements on TV I saw one recently for a new type 2 diabetes drug, okay? And the announcer on the commercial said, type 2 diabetes is a lifetime condition. You can't cure it. There's no chance for curing it. But this pill that we're about to sell you can help you control it. And that just drives me nuts, because if there's one thing I've learned in doing all of these things, type 2 diabetes is like, you know, 100% reversible with diet, 100%. So anyway, that I think is, and I'm sure you've seen that too. You've seen type 2 diabetics that
a lot.
Yeah.
Yep. And they respond very well to it. It's just, it's a whole new way of thinking, because literally it's in the books. It only gets worse. These are progressive diseases.
Yeah.
Even the autoimmune diseases respond well. Like, you literally, all we need at this point is for physicians to give them the option. And I was really excited because I just published, I think this is the best thing I've done yet, because it was so important. And I hope that it's as useful as I think it can be. I published an article in the Permanente journal, Kaiser Permanente, their medical journal, and it's a physician's guide to plant-based diets. And what's so exciting about that for me is that Kaiser is, they're their own insurance company, their HMO, and it's in their best interest for their patients to succeed. And they have a big drive within their community. There's many of them that people are looking and seeing the benefits of plant-based diets and wanting to implement this with their patients. But because they don't, where do you start? So I have this article now. So here's what you do. Here's what they need to think about, B12, D, blah, blah, blah. And here's how to implement it into your patient care. So I think that if doctors just gave their patients the option, that could change everything. Just say, you could take these medications for life, or you could try medications. Because once people try it and see, especially if a lot of people don't want to start lifelong medication, so if they see that there's an option and they see that it works, it's, you're catching them right where they need you. Because my husband's a doctor, and we go out to dinner with friends, or we go out, and every time someone has a nutrition question, who do you think they go to?
The doctor.
The doctor. They think doctors know everything. But I sat in on my husband's medical school nutrition class, and it was, if you have a goiter, that is an iodine deficiency. If you have rickets, that's a D deficiency. And that was the extent of their nutrition. So it's, doctors need to know this information and need to share it.
Well, it seems to me like the word is getting out with doctors. And what's been particularly exciting for me is that I've had a chance to interview a handful of cardiologists who are now on board. And to me, that's hugely important. When you get a cardiologist, instead of wanting to crack a guy's chest open and do, a bypass for 100 grand, they're going to say, no, go away and do this diet and you're going to get better. And I think that's a hugely exciting development.
It is. And I mean, unfortunately, I get a lot of my clients coming to me saying, especially with type 2 diabetes, where their doctors are like, it doesn't matter how much you eat, how much sugar or whatever, a carb is a carb is a carb. I hear that every day. Just, boost up your insulin levels, change your medication. So I would love to see endocrinologists move in this direction too. I mean, all of it is important. Heart disease obviously is the number one killer, but diabetes leads to heart disease too. So a lot of implications at play. I mean, it's chronic disease is taking over. It literally, surpassed infectious disease as causes of death. And it's a whole different world. And it's literally a food-borne illness, all of it.
Absolutely. So how did you become, get involved with the becoming a columnist for VegNews?
Well, that was one of the co-founders asked me if I was interested. That was after I wrote my book. It's been about 5 years I've been writing for VegNews. I love that magazine. It's my favorite magazine. It's such a fun, exciting magazine, and I'm honored to be part of it. And it's neat to, answer questions, and it's a fun column because I get to talk about nutrition right in the middle of all this delicious, they talk about all the trendy, delicious new things, and it's a great magazine. I recommend everyone enjoy it. Pick up a copy.
What sorts of things do you write about? I mean, give me an example of, what was your last column about?
Okay, no, that's a good question. And I love, so what I consider myself as, I think I want to reword dietitian to say myth debunker, because all day long I'm debunking myths, and these myths are so pervasive. So my last column I wrote about bone broth, and I wrote about vitamin D, and I wrote about, fortified plant milks versus not fortified plant milks. I talk about soy a lot. A lot of people are concerned and confused about soy. I write about B12 and what kind of B12 we need to take, because everyone, if you're plant-based, please take a B12. And I just, people, and it's funny, if I run out of questions, because it's been 5 years and I keep an ongoing list of all the questions I've tackled, I put on my Facebook page, if you have any nutrition questions. And honestly, I get dozens and dozens of really good questions that I haven't tackled before. So I think people still have a ton of questions. It's good. It keeps me in business.
Oh, that's great that you got that instant source of ideas there. It's and it's going to go on forever. It seems like it's bottomless there. That you're always going to get interesting questions from people.
Absolutely. And the more that come on, the more questions and things that come up. It's pretty exciting.
That's cool. So how about something like multiple sclerosis? Have you seen patients with MS, and have you seen improvements in that?
Yes, I have. And what I've seen, actually amazing things happen. I've seen people with MS that change to a plant-based diet and their symptoms disappear. But, more like what we know from, I think Dr. McDougall's study just came out, that it wasn't that it doesn't improve the MRI, but the symptoms or the side effects or the long-term implications are subsided. I have to read that. I haven't read the whole article yet, so I don't want to quote it. But what I've seen is I've seen either a cessation of the progression of symptoms. I've seen people actually just feel better and not have, sometimes they'll get flare-ups and stuff like that. But I have seen amazing things happen with MS.
That's great, because MS has always been, considered incurable, essentially, I think, at least in terms of what the ordinary medical community says about it. But
all autoimmune disease is really confusing, I think, even allergies, basic allergies, but the whole spectrum of autoimmune disease is very confusing and scary, and to people and to medical community, there's just not a lot of information on curation and making people heal from it. So the idea that this could at least alleviate symptoms, at the very least, it's worth a shot. It's an oxidative process, usually oxygen, free radicals and all that, the inflammation process that's typical in all these types of conditions like rheumatoid arthritis and MS too, and a lot of them, eczema. And if you're inundating your system with antioxidant foods, which you only get from plants, it helps with the inflammation. So it has to improve at least a little bit.
I've got to say, I recently interviewed a cardiologist, woman cardiologist, who also had recently been diagnosed with MS, and she was taking medications for the MS, and the medications were devastating her. This is something I didn't know, that evidently the medication for MS can have really terrible side effects. And so she went plant-based, and she's back to normal now, and also now prescribing plant-based nutrition for her heart patients. So it's like, there you go, 2 for 1. It was a really, really exciting. Monica Agrawal is her name, Dr. Monica Agrawal. Anyway, yeah. So all these client successes, how does that make you feel?
Like I have a big, huge, strong, solid tool in my toolbox, unlike before. Before it was, I wish I could be a better trainer. I wish I could be a better dietitian. I want to get better results. And I blame myself and behavior modification and all that. But knowing that this is not only available, but absolutely efficacious and phenomenal, as we've talked about and seen, it's exciting. It's empowering for the person. You really can take your health into your own hands. You are not a victim of the medical society. You don't have to get sucked into that downward spiral that is so easy to get sucked into. So easy. It's like, here, don't worry. Here, just take these medications. Oh, if that medication doesn't work, or that symptom happens, here's another medication. And some of them are really horrible, like the steroids and the immunosuppressants for autoimmune disease. And the fact that you don't need those, or you may not need those, obviously check with your physician. But if you can try with diet first and avoid all of those horrible side effects and lifestyle changes, like you to become debilitated, it changes your whole life. And it's very empowering that you can go beyond that with your fork, just your fork
and what you stick on your plate. It is really exciting what you can do with just those tools. So how far do you think the idea of plant-based nutrition has come since your first book, since you got started in this?
It's so funny because the numbers and the statistics don't reflect how big it feels. And that may be the social media effect, the fact that it feels like it's huge all over social media. But of course, those are the people that come to you, or the people that are in alignment. It feels huge because you could say vegan and everyone knows what that is. And there's always a vegan in the room, which never happened before. There's vegan options everywhere. The market, the commercial products on the marketplace, filling the shelves. So you see it everywhere now. You see it, you hear it. My parents are like, oh my gosh, we ran into their old friend, and they're like, can you believe that they're plant-based? And people, it's happening everywhere, and different everywhere. To me, it feels like it's everywhere. And it can only keep going. It's got a momentum. I think we all said this from the get-go. Everyone's been saying this, it's going to be a grassroots movement. I can't tell you how many times a patient has come to me, gotten healthy, went back to their doctor, and converted the doctor. And it's like this. So it's like literally from the ground up, from the patients to the doctors, from the kids to the moms, it's coming from all different avenues, but it's percolating and it's coming up.
I do get the sense too that a lot more doctors are getting behind this. Don't you get the same idea?
I do, except for then like my husband, he's a renal pathologist. So he works in the microscope, but he talks to all the nephrologists, and he tells all the doctors know what he's going to say. Like he teaches the fellows, and he'll say like, why do you think we're seeing so much of this disease? And they're like, because people are eating too much meat, but they kind of laugh about it. So I get a little disheartened with some of these doctors because I'm around a lot of doctors. But when in the movement, and the fact that every summit's like this, and there's conferences percolating up too that have just all these doctors that I hadn't even known about yet, I think that's a really positive sign. And it's going to take a little time, but it is definitely a forward movement.
No question about it. A lot of the speaking engagements Dr. Campbell does now are in front of medical students at medical schools. And to me, that's like, oh my goodness, what a huge breakthrough that is, you know?
Yeah, me too. Me too. I'm speaking in medical schools and grand rounds, medical grand rounds. So they're coming and they're showing up and they're interested. They're asking a lot of questions.
Great. And they're paying attention, right?
Yes, we hope so. It sounds like.
Fantastic. So where do you think the idea will be in like the next 10 to 15 years?
I think it's going to be well acclimated, and I think it's going to be well adopted. It's going to change. It's going to have to. I mean, I really believe, I've been saying this for a few years, but I really believe it may be a broad tipping point, but it is a tipping point because we can't sustain our healthcare costs. We have no choice. And it's estimated that 70 to 80% of healthcare costs could be taken away with this. So I think we have to expand into this, and we are, and it's just going to continue to grow. And that's what I see. And people are getting really creative out there with how it's coming about and, you know, where it's popping up. So I think there's a lot of hope for a lot of exciting things in the future.
Besides your patients, of the people you know who have changed to a plant-based diet, what is the main reason they're doing it, do you think? I mean, or can you even pick one out? Is it the environmental thing? Is it humanitarian? Is it health?
I have to say it's across the board. And I know when someone comes to me and they're doing it for the animals, I've got them for life. Like all they want is to be healthy. And so I just tweak it. So they're just, you know, optimizing their diet, but I know they're going to stay there. If they're there for the environment or the animals, they are there. That's because they don't want to hurt that's me too. Like there's nothing that you could tell me about eating an animal that would make me eat an animal ever again, no matter what. So a lot of people come for that, but there is people that come from the health. And the health one, it's interesting because if they get a really serious diagnosis or someone close to them gets a serious diagnosis, but I see all sorts of reasons. Someone saw someone get really healthy. Someone saw someone that looked really pretty, you know, because they got that plant-based glow going. Like, I want to look like that. You know, if the celebrity goes vegan temporarily or whatever, or permanently or whatever, and people see them, or an athlete, the Olympic athletes, or when people get inspired, you know, that I see a lot of that too. But I think it just depends because it's sprinkled throughout our culture right now. There's a lot of reasons that people get inspired to do so. And you have to be inspired. Like I said, you have to want to do it yourself because it's a big change.
Yeah, I agree. So, I mean, does it break down in age groups even? Do you think like younger people are more into the animal rights issue and middle-aged people are more driven by health concerns and stuff like that?
I would say that because, yeah, I mean, young people aren't invincible. They're not going to, you know, they don't care.
Yeah.
Right? Kids care, do it for the animals and the planet. My kids are little advocates, and they're little, and they're still advocating to their cousins and everything. It's really cute. But yeah, and I mean, look at the millennials. I think it's 12% of millennials, the last study showed that they were faithful vegetarians for planet animal reasons. And then the mainstream audience, like the whole consumer audience, about 36% of them will consider themselves or are eating plant-based products. So and that's products, not just vegetables and fruit. Everyone hopefully, ideally eats some kind of vegetables or fruits or grains and legumes. But the market is growing, and I think that millennials seem to be growing it. I was a food trend specialist for a couple months. So I was really digging into the statistics on trends, and it does seem like it's coming from the younger generations, and that is mostly from the ethical components, and because they don't, you know, who has to deal with heart disease?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, well, like Dr. Esselstyn says, we have kind of a warranty, a built-in warranty that lasts till we're 25 or 30, you know. And we can pretty much eat it or do anything we want until we get to that age. After that, all this stuff starts catching up with you. So, you know, then people become more attuned, I think, to the health the health argument.
Definitely. And also, I get a lot of pregnant clients, and that's another reason people need to be really super healthy. And I think that's a really cool reason too.
That is an incredibly cool reason. What percentage of your patients are pregnant?
Oh, I don't know, because my patient population fluctuates all the time, but I do see a lot of pregnant women that come to me and they're like, either they were vegan and want to be healthy, make sure they're getting everything for the baby. Because when you have a baby, like I've had two, so when you're pregnant, you're like, oh my gosh, it doesn't only matter who cares about me? This is like, you're making a person, and so it's a lot of pressure. But or they come to me and say, they want to go plant-based because they're pregnant. They want to just give it the best chance. And then I also have people that are afraid, like their OBs are like, oh no, you can't do that vegan. So there's plenty of information to support them, and you could absolutely be healthy and you could grow big, healthy, strong children. I know a lot of vegan for life kids that have grown up to be very strong. And my daughter's 99th percentile for height in her class.
Very cool. How old are your kids now?
They are 9 and 11 now.
9 and 11, and they've been raised totally plant-based, I take it.
Almost totally. My son accidentally had 2 animal meat bites on accident because he thought it was a tofu dog, and then he thought he had a bite of his friend's sandwich. But other than that, he was vegetarian for a while with my husband. They had a few years of, digging into the junk food, the eggs and the cheese. But my daughter's been completely plant-based for a long time. So now they're completely, yeah.
Are they enthusiastic about it, or are they like, mom's making me do it?
Well, my son gets a little bit of both, but then if I take him to a farm sanctuary, or, they hear something or see something, or like I said, we were out to lunch with my sister's kids the other day, and my son was like, my nephew said, oh, can you believe it? Auntie so-and-so is in the shower for 20 minutes. Can you believe it? Doesn't she know that we have a drought in California? So my son goes, don't you know there's 50% of water used goes to livestock production?
Wow. You got them trained well. Do they have like crib notes that you made up for them that they take?
No, I don't. But my daughter, when my daughter was learning how to talk, or like I was feeding her, and I was like feeding her blueberries, and I remember saying antioxidants, and it was one of her first words, antioxidants. So she's proud of that, and I am too.
That's a killer, man. That really kills me in a good way. In a good way. Well, I thank you for all the great work you've done. And like I said, it's a real pleasure to see how successful you've become, because I do feel like I knew you when, you know what I mean? I remember when you were first writing that book. I remember going to screenings of Forks with you, and where you were on the panel answering questions. And so it's just, it's really nice to see you're doing well.
Thank you, Lee. And likewise, I'm really happy for all of your success. This is a very exciting movement, and you've been part of it. So
I appreciate that. And so in closing here, do you have a website that you'd like to plug, to give, so people can come and find out what you got to offer?
Absolutely. And I'm updating my website. I'm really excited. But it's plantbaseddietitian.com. And I'm all over social media as Plant-Based Dietitian on Facebook and Plant Dietitian on Twitter. But yeah, everything is on my website, plantbaseddietitian.com.
Great. And I want to thank everybody for watching, and we encourage you to learn more about our efforts to build a Plant Pure Nation at our website, plantpurenation.com. Julieanna, thanks again. You were great.
Thank you, Lee.